Hey folks, with us today, Antti, co-founder and CEO of Yeeply. Super happy to have you on.
Thank you, Nikolas. Proud to be here. Good to
Awesome.
be here.
You're not the typical tech founder in the sense of your business is way more about atoms than most people, at least of those listening. Tell us a bit about yourself and your company.
Yeah, cool. We're not a typical SaaS company. We're more of a tech-enabled operational company. What we do is very simple. We maintain bikes. But how we do that and where we're going with this, it's not as simple as that. And if you look at my background, I come from the tech industry. So the previous company, we're doing mobile apps for employee benefits, growing that company. Before that, it was a combination of software and hardware for logistics companies. So the background is from the tech side. But then my hobby is bikes. And then just looking at it from my perspective as a biker, the bike industry serves me really well. But then my mom, it's a nasty experience for her. She's not a biker, and when she wants to get her bike maintained, it's a pain in the ass, and I can feel and sense the pain and like everything coming from her. I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like, can we just create something that she would smile, she would urge to get her bike maintained, and she would just like be excited about it. And that's what we started. So kind of combining an old school, very kind of not too much appreciated industry and bumping it up with tech to turn it into something that people really want to work for. Like when we founded the company back in 2016 with my co-founder Tom, we thought like, hey, can we just turn this around? That if we look at small kids, when they're growing up, they want to be firefighters, they want to be policemen, and they want to be Yeeply mechanics, like making it so sexy, this kind of a bit not sexy industry. And sorry, so that was a long story. My history and a little bit about the company as well. Sorry.
It's perfect. And what I would love to know is how did you initially get it off your ground? Because repairing bikes is nothing you can do from behind your laptop. So how did you get the first 10, 20, 100 customers up and running in terms of operations?
Yeah, that was a lot. Like back in 2016, me and Tommy were both still having our daily jobs. And then I came up with the idea like, hey, we could make it work like this. Let's get it started. And what we did was like, okay, let's do it. We shook hands. What we did, we agreed like, if we do it, we're going to make it the biggest and best in the world. Nothing short of that. And then what we did, we just said like, okay, we need to test this. What happens if we bring bike maintenance into the neighborhoods, bring it onto wheels? We went into a different van shops. We bought a used van. We thought like, okay, what do we need in the tools and this and that? We got it all furnished up, foiled it didn't look like our service units look today. It was very ugly, but we wanted to get it to the customers as early as possible to see like, can we get people like my mom to smile? Can we get them to smile and pay money as well? So it was in the beginning, it was me and Tommy in the shift. I have a history in bikes, so I know how to maintain them. So I was maintaining them. And then we're at the same time, we're kind of also looking at the whole customer journey from like, how do they see us online? How do they find us? How do they go through the online process of figuring out what we're offering to them, to the booking of the service, and then kind of joining the virtual world into the physical world of like, okay, now we see you physically here and we continue the same customer journey throughout. So kind of figuring that out, because what we really put a lot of effort is into the customer experience, not only on the digital side, but also on the physical world. So just being on the ground. And then when you're talking with the customers, then you realize, okay, this is how they see the world. This is how we need to talk to them. They're not bikers. They're just people who have an appliance that needs to work.
Yep. I would love to double click on one thing you said, which is, and we wanted to be the best in the world. Did you really start out the company with that level of ambition, or did your level of ambition grow with the early signs of success?
No, we said with Tommy, like when we find like, if we're going to do this, let's make it into something great. So we wanted it to be the biggest and best. We had no idea what that means if we quantify like biggest. It was very difficult to quantify that. But that was just kind of the ambition level. Like if we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly. And we set a goal. We basically had a lunch where we first introduced this idea to Tommy. That was in March. In April, we had the company founded. In June, we had the MVP at our customers, and then 1st of June. And then basically at that point, we said like by August, we either say that it's not going to work or we say, yes, it works, and we go into the next phase. So we gave us like 3 months of time to run through the first initial pilot. And but I think kind of setting that, been working with a lot of different people. And I think with Tommy, we come from very different backgrounds. So mine is like from business, from engineering, and he comes from the creative world. So we look at the world very differently. But I think what we share is the value base, what we build the whole company on top. That's common between us. And the other thing is the kind of where we're going with the company. How we're going there, we disagree on many, many things on a daily basis, but kind of because we have the same value base and we have the same direction, then we typically can find probably the best way to push forward. So
how do you clarify that end goal for your employees? Because I feel like between co-founders, you kind of can read between the lines, but as soon as you hire 2, 3, 4, 5 people, they can't read your mind. So how do you translate that to embed it into your company?
I think that's something that we struggle with every single day. We put quite a bit of effort into that with Tommy. Like, how do we communicate? How do we build that they're part of this journey that we're doing? And if we look at it, like, I think a lot of people, when you just state that we want to be the biggest and best, that kind of ignites something like, what are these guys doing? They're just like Finnish people, like probably the dumbest place on earth to start a bike maintenance business. They're coming from Finland in the middle of snow and saying that they want to be the biggest and best at bike maintenance and keeping vehicles running. And I think that's kind of sparkles. But then once you have more and more people in many different countries, in different cities, then you need to kind of find the ways how you can communicate, because it cannot be that I see every single new employee or Tommy sees every single employee and tells the story. And how can we kind of get the story to roll out? And that's what we've done, many, many different iterations and kind of where are we going? What's the mission? And how do we communicate that to the employees?
If you need to hire the right developers and ship fast, then React Squad is for you. A boutique agency that specializes in React and only works with fast growth startups. Get a 14-day risk-free trial and a transparent price of $95 per hour. Visit reactsquad.io to learn more.
For the people who are earlier starting out, maybe raise their first round of funding, which gives the initial growth in terms of headcount. Do you have 2 or 3 tips specifically on what you would do in that situation to get that culture going? Like very specific tactical things?
Yeah, I think kind of paying a lot of attention to the top people that you hire. Because if those are going right, then everything underneath them goes right. But if you make a mistake there, then everything beneath it is also going to fail. So that's, I think, kind of our learnings. And then also trusting your own instinct and how you feel. Like there will be, once you raise round, then there will be a lot of advisories telling you how things should be done. Some of them, they have very good advice, and it might be very good advice for our company in a different time frame. It might be very good advice in this time frame for a little bit of a different company, but it's us as founders who know the company, who know the business, who know the environment the best, and like we need to be brave enough to say like, no, I do not think, and reason why we don't think it's the right thing to do. Because these things can then, if you do things too fast, that can fuck up the company culture very quickly. If you hire the wrong people, that can fuck up your company culture. And then this is maybe one thing that we share a lot with Tommy, is that we believe that everything starts from the people that you have inside the company. If they are proud of where they are working, if they're excited, that shows to the customers. And then once the customers are happy, then the financials, they work after that. But if you're kind of the core of the company, the people, if that's not working, then I don't believe anything else after that in long term will work. So just kind of taking time, even though it might be painful to say like, okay, we didn't find the right candidate, but just taking the time and like And sometimes you think you found the perfect candidate and you hire them. And then at some point you start getting these signs that maybe this was not the right hire, and then just kind of acting early enough, not letting it go too far. So these are kind of for us, the people things.
Yep.
And you can never underestimate the need for like FaceTime, just spending time with people.
So you told me briefly before we started that you, of course, like during COVID went fully virtual. And now are you fully back out the office? Is it like 2 or 3 days back out the office? How do you manage that nuance that you just mentioned of having FaceTime?
But I think we have not generated any like rules that you need to be at the office this many days. I'm hoping that we can create a company culture and a place where you want to come. It's the people, it's your kind of extended family or however you want to call it. And now I think for most of, if you look at our Finnish HQ office, most of the people are working here, 4 days a week. And it's kind of back to pre-COVID, how they used to work as well. Yep. So pretty similar.
And then how are you scaling that internationally? So are you doing that by choosing the right leaders and then they have to build that on their own, or do you fly out to different headquarters? How do you manage the international part of the operation?
Yeah, I think when we open up a new country, then me and Tommy are present there quite a bit, or then one of our other like core team members who are opening up the country. And then we pay a lot of attention to the GM of the country that we hire, that it's the right candidate with the right background, right knowledge, but then the right kind of ability to come into our company and be part of who we are. And then if that goes right, then it starts working. But I do spend quite a bit of my time just traveling, going to different like companies. And I find it very important because then you get the fingertip feeling of how the people are really doing. When you're having online meetings, you're concentrating on the topic that you're discussing, and you're missing a lot of these like hidden signals from the people. Because it's at least in my opinion, it's very important to early on tackle if they have anything that's not wrong, and you can sense it from like you're drinking a coffee with them. He says, "Okay, there's something wrong," and then you try to get it out, and then you can solve it. If it escalates, they kind of hide it long enough, and then it becomes a small thing, becomes a big thing, and it's very difficult to solve it afterwards. So kind of just spending time and like trying to create a culture where it's they can talk about even small things that are annoying them, and it's not something that we judge, but we try to fix them. And
yeah, let's switch gears a bit from the company building side to more of the product side. So tell us a bit about the tech you're using, because you mentioned in the beginning that in theory, it's quite simple what you do, meaning you maintain and repair bikes for everyday people who either don't have the time or the ability to do it themselves. But then how do you use tech to make that customer journey more seamless and more amazing for the end user?
Yeah. Basically what we do nowadays, we started off with the consumer business back in the days in 2016. And what we do now, it's expanded a little bit. So what we're doing is we're basically maintaining anything that's within a city that's moving people or things around. And if we look at the transition that's happening in our cities, it's this kind of transportation is transforming from these non-sustainable means of transport into sustainable means of transport. And that's where we're basically enabling that transition. And it can be vehicles from like, if you look at bikes to e-bikes, to these like cargo bikes, heavy cargo bikes, LEVs, and God knows where that will. It's a very raw, immature market still, developing market. So that's what we're doing. So it's kind of the consumer side, but then also we are helping companies who are using sustainable means of transport for their last mile delivery needs. So we're helping them as well. And if we look at the consumer side, like where the whole tech platform idea came from, or where the need for that came from, is that when we looked at that we're going to offer this service, we wanted to have our mechanics, our guys and girls, the best tools at hand, whether it is the screwdrivers or it's the kind of IT tools on like they see who the customer is and what has been done to the bike. So we looked on the market and there was nothing like when you come from other industries, the bike industry, it seems like you're jumping like 30 years back in time in everything.
So just sorry for interrupting you, but pinpointing there. So the first instinct was not, hey, let's go build that, but is there a tool out there that we can buy to fulfill that objective?
Yes, and if we look at back in 2016, it was bootstrapping. So me and Tommy, we said like, okay, we both, but I think it was 20K that we put in. Like, okay, with this money, we need to last until August. We're going to get the vans, we're going to get the tools, we're going to get this and that and that. So we didn't have any excessive funding that we could hire a tech team to build up a fucking platform. It was different, like just Google Forms and putting different free tools into place. So it looked very digital if we look at it from our mechanics perspective, from the customer's perspective. On the backside, it was like a freaking chaos. But that was very kind of cheap, easy, and fast to kind of like fine tune and figure out like what do we actually need. And then once we had that, the next year, then we had a third party service provider who started developing the platform for us. But it was basically from the need that if we were going to make this the biggest and best in the world, we need to have the tools for mechanics, but we need to also understand ourselves, like what's going on, like what are the efficiencies, how's the quality, and we need to have that data for ourselves. And this is where the kind of the initial idea for the platform came from. And then from there onwards, now it's developed into a platform that our customers are using for their fleet management, where they have uptimes, where they're reporting what's wrong with their vehicles. It's for our OEM partners. We're providing data back to them, which components are lasting, which ones are not, how their vehicles developing. The customers can see their maintenance histories. So it's kind of grown along the years, and we've understood more and more like what can we do with the data. And I think we're still kind of just scraping the tip of the iceberg in terms of like what can be done with it. We're using it for calculating, okay, when do we need to maintain? What's the cheapest way to keep a vehicle on the street? When do we need, how often do we go there? How do we do the preventive maintenance so that we don't need to go there on like ad hoc basis? What parts are like, if it's a more expensive part, but it lasts longer, is it worthwhile to put that in for the vehicle? So there's a lot of like this day-to-day operational things involved with it. But if we look into the future, more and more things are going to be connected. We're gathering data not only from the vehicles themselves, but we're also putting this like the people who are seeing the vehicles, who are doing things, we're putting that into the data and gathering a lot of things. And then kind of how that can be, we're seeing where the vehicles are going, how that can be benefited. If we look at insurance companies, if we look at cities on their like planning, we know where we have a lot of issues on like crashes or ad hoc things on the cities. We can help the cities develop that. So I believe that it's going to go a lot further than we're seeing today. And that's kind of what excites me. And kind of, it's so raw, it's so young, it's so immature, this whole thing. And there's so much to be done on that side.
So you feel like the data you're gathering could be the starting off point for a whole other branch, basically, of business in the future.
Yes. If we look at this kind of platform that we've developed for purely for our own needs, so that we can operate, we can serve our customers better, we can lower costs for them. And I think kind of the data is another thing that could be something in the future and will probably be something in the future. So that's an interesting topic. And the other thing is kind of for the platform where that will go. So there's an opportunity of spinning that off into if we look at kind of pure SaaS software, kind of a platform on that service, but it's not the time for that. Now it's still kind of, I believe that when we have everything in our own hands, we have the mechanics, they're part of our company. We have the platform, the tech team is part of our company, and the kind of the operations. So then it's the best way for us now to develop everything, but it all goes hand in hand, and it's every single day we're changing things, whether it's the operational model, whether it's the parts, whether it's on the tech side, how we're doing things, and like it's still very, very raw.
Did you buy now because if I understood correctly, you started out building the platform with the agency basically?
Yep.
Did you bring that in-house by now, or how did you manage that? Because it can be a tricky relationship to have an agency partner who does everything long-term basically.
Yeah, so we had the agency they started in 2017 with us, and then last year, early 22, we in-housed the team. Because it was all the time, like with an outside agency, it's easy. If we look at kind of from the funding side, that's basically what has been dictating how we do our tech. Because if we look at 2016 or 17, you're talking about like vehicle maintenance to VCs. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then COVID hits, and then everybody has been always knowing that this kind of e-bikes and bikes, and that's the new future, and like super interested in that side. So kind of in the beginning phase, it was easy when we had an outside agency. It was easy to scale it up and down based on like how much funding we had. And if we had bigger project, more funding, then we could scale it up, and then kind of scaling it to very minimum when there was, we call cockroach mode moments.
Yeah. So basically using the flexibility that you wouldn't have with an internal team, because I guess it would kill the culture if you would just fire people all the time and then rehire and then fire again.
That's not, I don't think it's fair. It's like, we have had to go through this. Like if you look at, early last year, we're still looking like, okay, the market is now growing. So what we did, we hired up more people to be able to handle the growth. And then suddenly, like last spring, the financial market started crashing. And then if you look at a lot of this, like either direct customers or customers of customers that we're serving were somehow related to VC-funded companies. And then that started collapsing. And then during last autumn, it was like a nightmare at some point. You would hear like almost every single week, some customer went bankrupt or they're pulling out from markets. And it was like, fuck, like we're going to do. And but we pulled through.
How did you manage that? And I don't only mean tactically, but also psychologically as a founder, because being a founder is never super easy and fun.
No,
but then those times are nasty.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of the network that you have around you. So I think Crucial was co-founder like that, when you have somebody who you can like call like, oh fuck, this is like shit, and like, yeah, it is shit, and you're not alone with it. But we talk a lot with Tommy, and then I think kind of from the advisory board, from the investors, there's like great people that can support. And then I think the one thing that gave a lot of relief during last autumn was when you're talking to other founders, and then you realize that almost everybody's going through the same shit. So it's not necessarily that we have done something wrong, and that's why I need to let somebody go who will have problems, because I need to let him go, that I've fucked up and now I'm fucking up somebody else's lives because I've made a bad decision. So that kind of gave a little bit of relief that it's happening everywhere. Everybody's going through the same stuff. But I think last autumn was like the nastiest time.
Yeah. And in some industries, it's still a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Even until now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's kind of, but now, I'm not sure if it's me and my optimism, but I think I'm seeing like now we just had one customer and they were saying like expansion. And I was like, I haven't heard that word for a year. Thank you. So
you feel like it's slowly tickling up again.
It could be, yes. I'm not saying it is, but I'm starting to see like some customers are expanding, and it's a little bit like,
yeah. I mean, let's hope for it. Yep.
Yeah.
And then as the last and final question, where can people find you guys online?
Yeply.com.
If you like this episode, then you'll love the SaaS Operator, a weekly newsletter brought to you by EarlyNode, with actionable insights from SaaS experts in the industry, delivered right to your inbox every Tuesday for free. Visit earlynode.com to subscribe.